Welcome to the Tribe of Testimonies. Here you will find conversations with faithful Native American members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, sharing their stories and their love of the Savior. My name's Andrea Hales. I'm Navajo, and I'm glad that you've decided to come and join us today. I'm so glad that you came today. So today my guest is William Tso. One of his daughters emailed me recently and said, "Hey, you really gotta interview my dad. You really gotta interview my dad." And so this is the interview that I did with him. I wish I had more time to just sit with most of my guests. I just wish I had time to just get their stories. And as I finished with William, he and his wife both said, "Oh, he has so many more stories to tell." And they mentioned few of the stories, and I was like, "Oh, I wish I had more time, and I wish that I could just share all these good experiences, the befores and afters, with all of you, because it's really changing my heart and bringing me joy, and I hope that the things that I do share with you are bringing you joy." So, visiting with William was delightful. There's a few times where you hear it's kind of a bang sound. It's his rocking chair. So, don't worry, there weren't, guns going off, or there weren't kids banging around. It just was his rocking chair. So you can get the feel of, now that you can get the feel of how this interview was. It was just cozy and comfortable, and it was really nice, and the spirit was there. So I hope you enjoy this time with William. Today I am actually in the home of Brother William Tso, and I'd love it if you would be able to introduce yourself, whether or not that's in your language, so everybody could get to know you.
Okay. My name's William Tso. I'm a full-blood Navajo Diné. My clan is, I'm going to do this all in English because I don't speak Navajo. My clan is Water Flows Together, Tohekluni. I'm born for Towering House, Kia'ani. My mother's father is Tuchiti, and my father's father is Tcheknesatni. I live in Tooele, Utah. Born and raised in the Salt Lake Valley, though. I spent about 54 years, maybe, in Salt Lake Valley. But it was nice. It was comfortable. But then we had to get out of there because we lived in West Jordan, and it was getting too crowded, too much traffic, and we had a chance to move out here, and so we did.
Yeah, that's awesome. What is one of your favorite things about your heritage? It could be a story, it could be family history,
Okay.
It could be anything. What's something that you love about your heritage, especially if it relates to the gospel of Jesus Christ?
All right, and you're going to love this. I was brought up in the traditional way, and you might find it hard when I say that, or hard to believe when I say that, and not being able to speak Navajo. Both my parents are Navajo. But my father didn't want us raised down on the reservation because he didn't want us going to boarding schools.
Mm.
So that's why we lived out here in the Salt Lake Valley. Um, but we would go back to the res. I don't know how many times a year, but we would go down quite often. Very close to all my relatives on both sides of my family, and went to a lot of singings, a lot of ceremonies they have down there. And I'm going to start with one. It's the wedding, the traditional wedding. Now, it starts out with a man blessing the home with white corn and all four directions, and comes in and gives the medicine man, or then he blesses the inside, or he blesses the inside, then the outside, then he goes to the medicine man. During the ceremony, they will make mush, and they would pass the mush around to everybody. Everybody will take a pinch and eat it and pass it. Then the groom would bring water, and we would all take a sip of water and pass it around. So one day I was at another wedding again, and I was with my wife. And I looked at her, and well, I wasn't a member all my life. I was raised Catholic. Mm-hmm. But, I converted by this time. And I looked at my wife and I said, "Do you know what they just did? They took the sacrament." Mm.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. They took the sacrament. And then I looked at the medicine man and I started thinking, he wears a headband, but he has a bow tied. And I noticed that he'll wear it on the bow on one side of his head or the other. And I'm thinking, I know that. I've seen it before. I've even done it. Oops, sorry. And then I noticed he wears an apron. And I thought, I know that. I've done that too. So that was the first one. Mm-hmm. Now that is on the lower, in the Aaronic priesthood area right there, passing sacrament. Mm-hmm. Now the next instance is the higher priesthood, Melchizedek priesthood, done in the temple.
Yeah.
Now, before I was in the Air Force, way back, about 50 years ago, and I got my orders to go to Clark Air Base in the Philippines. And before I left, we went down to the res again, and my mom was telling her sisters and her mom that I was going across the ocean to a place called Philippines. And my grandma, first thing that came out of her mouth was, "Did you get a medicine man for him?" Mm-hmm. And my mom said no. So they left at right that time to find a medicine man. And they came back and they said, "In 2 days you're going to have a singing." I said, "Okay." And so they did what is called the enemy way ceremony.
Mm-hmm.
In this ceremony, the medicine man, I noticed, wore his, again, bow on one side of the head. He wore an apron. He had a white buckskin with all his stuff on it, and I took that as his altar,
Mm-hmm.
covered in white, and then his whatever he was using. Well, he used ash, and he blessed my body. First the feet, up, the legs, chest, the back, my hands, arms, my neck, my cheek, my eyes, my nose, mouth, and ears. Oh, top of my head. Years later, after we were married, I was sitting in the temple, and I was to be anointed. And the high priest did the same exact thing
Mm-hmm.
that the medicine man did,
Yeah.
but he used oil. And I'm sitting there, and the first thing that came to my head, or come to mind, was I've had this done before, except it was in ashes, not oil. And then I'm putting all these things together in my head. Okay, this is a higher priesthood now. Medicine man was performing something taken from the temple, done by the higher priesthood. And I'm trying to remember what side the bow was on that he had, and what side the bow was on that the medicine man did that performed the wedding. And I couldn't remember, but I do know that they wear it on different sides of the head for different types of ceremonies. And to me, that is, okay, they're going from the Aaronic priesthood to the Melchizedek priesthood and back and forth. Okay, now those are instances of telling me that a long time ago, I don't know when, my people had the priesthood.
Yeah.
And over the years, it was changed. And the people changed it. Because,
or maybe forgotten, possibly.
yeah, well, they had to change it because things change all the time.
That's true.
Now, there's another instance. I don't know where to start this one. Oh, let's do it this way. We were in the Lamanite ward that they used to have in Salt Lake.
Uh-huh.
And we were in a certain stake, I can't remember the name, but they were having a tri-stake conference. So there was 3 stakes involved, and they were trying to put together this massive choir. And so both my wife and I volunteered to sing in the choir, but for some reason or another, I was appointed the choir, or whatever you call it.
The director?
Yeah, over our stake.
Huh.
So I was doing that, and it was funny because there was a guy from the University of Utah who was a professor of music. And I was thinking that he should be the director, not me.
Right.
But I have an ear for music, and I know what it should sound like, and I know when and where to go high and low in volume, and I know about pronunciation, enunciation, how to make your voice go farther, throwing your voice, all these things. And so I applied that to the choir, and I thought we sounded good. I
Yeah.
really did.
Yeah.
And so we got together with the other two stakes, and we went to the tabernacle up on Temple Square, and we had a couple rehearsals. Now, come time for conference, President Benson walks in,
Uh-huh.
and it was like, whoa, but everything in that tabernacle changed. The whole feeling of the tabernacle changed when this small, beautiful man walked in. And it was peaceful. It was restful. And he come in and he sat down, and we proceeded with the conference. Now I'm going to stop there and I'm going to go back. My mom used to tell us stories all the time about different things, coyote stories and other things. But the one that stuck in my mind the most was the story she used to tell me about how the Tachitni got their name. And she always used to say, never forget this, Yasha, because someday somebody's going to ask you. So never forget what I'm going to tell you. And I just sat, like all Navajo children, I just sat there and smiled at her and waited for the story again that I was going to hear, that I've heard millions of times before. So she stopped what she was doing and she turned and looked at me and say, do you know where the Tachitni came from? No, Mom. She goes, I'll tell you. She says, a long time ago, before people can still remember, a long, long time ago, the Tachitni looked the same as all the other people around them. But they wanted to be different. So they painted their foreheads red so they could be different from everybody else, and everybody would know who they are as soon as they seen their red foreheads. Always remember that, Shiaja. I said, okay, Mom, I will. Now, back to the conference. After the conference was over, we sang, we thanked thee, O God, for a prophet.
Uh-huh.
President Benson had tears in his eyes, and he turned around, and he wanted to shake everybody's hand that was in the choir. So we performed a single line, and everybody, row by row, came out. Well, when it was my turn, of all people, I don't know why, I get up there and I shake his hand, and he asked me, have you read the Book of Mormon? I said, yes, sir, I have. He said, good. And I was going to go, and then he held onto my hand, and then he put his other hand over my hand again and had me, okay, I'm not going anywhere. And so he asked me then, do you believe it's true? Everybody stopped, and the tabernacle was so totally silent, and everybody turned and looked at me. Because here I am, just a regular person off the street, and the prophet more or less singles me out.
Yeah.
And asks me about my testimony of the Book of Mormon. I felt like I was giving the prophet an account of my life. And I told him, yes, I know it's true. He goes, why do you know it's true? Then I told him that story that my mom used to tell me about the touch eating. And I said, one day, when I read the Book of Mormon the first time, I didn't see it. But one day I was reading it again, and I came upon it. And you can find it in Alma 3, verse 4. It talks about the Amlicites and how they wanted to be different or look different from the Lamanites or the Nephites. And the only way they could do it was to paint their foreheads red. My jaw just fell open at that time when it hit me. This is the story my mom used to tell me.
Yeah.
Here it is in the Book of Mormon. It has to be true. The Amlicites must have been touch-eating me. So all these things helped me with my knowledge of the Book of Mormon and be more proud of who I am.
Yeah.
Because I know in my heart that I am from a lineage that held the priesthood a long time ago. But over time it was perverted and changed and forgotten what it was really for. But there's other things, and the most engrossing of all of this is this. Hojon, or the way of beauty, is being able to be in harmony with everything around you, with every person you meet, to be in harmony with what's above you and what's below you. That's Hojon. The gospel of Jesus Christ is very similar, if not the same thing.
Yeah.
You have a path. You hold on to the iron rod and you go. When you let go of the iron rod and you fall away from the path, what's to happen to you? That is a decision made by you because you're given your free agency. If you want to come back, you can come back. If not, then, of course, the consequences are pretty bad, very severe. And the same way with Hojon. You're on the path, and if you step off the path, same thing. You have a choice to make. You can come back or you can go. And if you go, you lose your spirit. You lose the essence of yourself, and you'll be lost forever. So all these things put together make me.
Yeah.
I am part of the Book of Mormon. And the Book of Mormon is a part of me.
I love it. You're a musician. What kind of music did you do What is
Everything.
everything?
When you're a performer, you have to learn to do everything. I started out as a solo act, doing nothing but Bob Dylan songs way back in 1968 or 69. And I played nothing but Bob Dylan for a couple of years. And about 1972, I believe, I started incorporating Neil Young. And so I went back and forth between Neil Young and Bob Dylan, and people loved it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was just great. Played at universities and smaller junior colleges, a lot of coffee houses, all over the place. And they used to have what was called the All Indian Folk Festival in Saley, Arizona, at what was then called the Navajo Community College.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's the Net College.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a 4-day ordeal.
Mm-hmm.
The first 2 days, you would have a day performance and a night performance. And they had people with decimeters walking around, measuring the applause.
That's crazy.
It's crazy, yeah. And the ones that got the greatest applause would go on to the third day.
Uh-huh.
Now, the third day, you had 2 performances, and it was hard because sometimes they would put you, when it got later and towards the evening, they would start the night performances in the evening, and sometimes they had you back to back. So as soon as you get done doing your day performance, you had to hurry and run to another building and set up again and do your night performance. So it got pretty crazy for those people. And it never happened to me because for some reason, I got the biggest applause.
Uh-huh.
And so what they did is they just took the best for the 4th day. And it was nothing but the best in a night performance only. They had cash prizes for first, second, and third place. Now, you get to know people, and I got to meet this guy, Richard Quintana. Now, him and I both, all the time that I went there maybe 5 years in a row, excuse me. And Richard Quintana and I would always take second and third place. We'd go back and forth.
Uh-huh.
But there was a guy that always took first place.
Yeah.
That's because everybody knew him. He passed away. Floyd Red Crow Westerman. He was big in the 70s. And he was mostly associated with the American Indian movement.
Uh-huh.
A lot of that going on at the time.
Yeah.
And it was fun, even though we knew that he was going to win every year. As soon as he showed up, Richard and I looked at each other like, do you want second or third? Do you want second or third? And so, that's what we did. But then later on, I got older and had children. I quit playing for a few years. Got interested with my kids' sports and did some coaching. With my oldest son, my youngest son played only 1 year of football, in 1 year of baseball, whatever the kids wanted to do and whatever they were best at, that's what we wanted them to do. My youngest daughter, I coached her in softball and basketball, but I still coached football. I coached football for 17 years.
Wow.
Turned down 2 high schools for coaching positions twice each in West Jordan. And started performing again.
Yeah.
But this time I changed everything that I did. I changed my whole repertoire. I incorporated all kinds of people. Then I started playing rock, soft rock, country rock, country folk, blues, whatever the crowd wanted. I'd get my booking, and I would ask, what kind of crowd is it? Well, they like this type of music. Okay. Put a set list together with that type of music and go perform. Then I started a band called Desert Moon, and we did pretty good. And we were approached by a promoter who wanted us to do a tour of the Midwest for about 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, you'll make good money. And then he says, after that, you'll be here for about a month in Salt Lake. And then you'll do a tour of Japan for about 6 months.
Wow.
He goes, you'll come back rich men. And so we were going to do it, but there was only 2 of us that could do it. Because, we were all working, and the other members couldn't get off their jobs. And my bass player and I, we both worked at the time. We worked for Boeing. Boeing says, sure, we'll give you a year off. And they were very supportive. Boeing was, and never happened. I was really disappointed.
Yeah.
But our last performance as Desert Moon was at the 2002 Winter Olympics here in Salt Lake.
Cool. That's awesome.
Something my bass player said still sticks in my mind, and that was, not many people have on their resume performed at the Winter Olympics.
Yeah. That's super cool. So, what point in your life did you find the gospel of Jesus Christ? And how did that happen? And when did you meet your wife? And
okay, it was back in about 1977, I believe. Yeah, 77. I knew her then brother-in-law because she was married before. I knew her brother-in-law, and I was driving down State Street in Salt Lake, and he chased me down and pulled me over and he said, do you still play at parties? I go, yeah. He goes, my brother's having a party tonight. Can you come? And I go, tonight? Yeah, okay. Who do you want? He goes, just you. Okay, I'll be there, So I was playing and singing and having a good time. Everybody was having a blast. And I looked in the back of the room in the corner, and there's this girl sitting there. She had her foot up on an ottoman, and she didn't look like she was having any fun. So when I took a break, I went back and I talked to her. I asked her name. She said Charlene. And asked her, what happened. She says she tore all the ligaments in her ankle.
Oh no.
And she won't be able to walk for another couple months or something like that. Says she was married, but going through a divorce. And I don't know why I did it or why I said it. So I said, here's my number. Why don't you give me a call when your divorce is over?
Uh-huh.
And I walked away and I'm thinking, what did I do that for? So I get back up and I start playing and stuff again. And I felt like an idiot, And I kind of tried to sneak out. But I got caught. And we talked a little more, I think, and then I left. About 6 months later, I get a phone call, and she says, "Remember me?" And I go, "Yeah, I remember you." Of course, I kind of lied because
You're like, that was something I put away.
6 months. He says, "You played, and I played a lot, and so I'm like 6 months ago. Could be anywhere,
Yeah.
Then when I seen her, I said, "Oh yeah, I remember her." So we got talking and stuff, and got to know each other, and it was funny because I used to go over to the West Jordan Park, and I used to sit up in the announcer's booth for the rodeo, and I used to sit there and watch the sunrise and take my guitar and play. And there was this blonde girl that used to come every morning. She'd park her car and they'd start jogging around the park. I used to watch her. We both laughed when we found out that I was watching her. And I had this. I always do this. I guess everybody does that. They play little games in their mind. And when I used to watch her jogging, I had this thought come in and said, this is talking to myself. What would I do if one day she bought me a 12-string guitar? So after we were together and stuff, she was my first Christmas with her. And she brought out my present. I'm like, kind of long. What is it, I opened it up and it was the guitar case. And I'm like, ooh, I wonder what it is. And I open it and there it is, a 12-string guitar. I still have it. I've had a lot of offers for it.
Yeah.
But I won't get rid of it. Too precious.
Yeah.
But we've been married. We've been married since 1979. He has 6 kids. She had 4 by her first marriage. I adopted them. Then she had 2 for me, 2 girls. So we have 6 kids altogether. 28 grandkids and 12 great grandkids.
Nice. That's so great.
Good family.
So when did the gospel,
Oh, okay. After we got married, she was going to church. That's all she said, church. I'm going to go to church. I said, okay. I thought it was, there was some close, churches close by. And so I wanted to know which one she was going to. And she finally said, well, I'm going to the Lamanite ward up in Salt Lake. And I go, oh, what's that?
Yeah.
She said, it's the Lamanite ward. Do you know what a Lamanite is? And I go, I kind of do. And so we left it at that. She kept going, and one day she asked me if I wanted to go with her. Now, when I was younger, all my friends were LDS. And my best friend took me one day to his church, or I went with him a couple times. So my introduction was bad because it was a fast and testimony meeting, and it was about 3 people, and they were all men who just got up and talked about their boats and their motorcycles and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh, what kind of church is this? That's what's going through my head. What kind of church is this? Talking about their boats, who cares about their boats? And so when she asked me to go with her, I'm like, I don't know if I want to hear about boats again, So I went with her anyway. And it was a good experience. I felt really good. But my youngest daughter, when she was born, she would stop breathing and turn blue. And we had to pick her up and rub her back and pat her back and stuff, and she'd start breathing again, cry. And we were afraid we were going to lose her one night if we couldn't, didn't get to her, in time. So Charlene asked me if it was okay if she took her to the bishop and let Christina get a blessing. I said, yeah, that's good. That's okay. So I went with her, and the bishop said, let Daddy hold her while I give her the blessing. Mm-hmm. I said, okay, I'll do that. Yeah. So he put his hands on her head, and I closed my eyes, and he started giving her the blessing. All of a sudden, there was this light that was above my head, and I could see it with my eyes closed. And then this light slowly started coming down, and it touched my head, and when it touched my head, I had a slight reaction because it was really warm, and it consumed it consumed my entire being. And it was the best feeling I have ever had in my life. I really didn't know what was happening to me, but it was good. Yeah. I know. And then he stopped with the blessing, and then the light dissipated and went away. But I was exhausted now. I had no strength, had a hard time holding my baby. But somehow I got her to Charlene, and I plopped in the chair, and I could feel sweat coming down. And I'm just breathing. Okay, let's get a hold of yourself. Try to figure out what happened. Never said nothing to her right away. And then that was my first time. Then I decided I want to find out more about this religion because I want to know what happened to me, Mm-hmm. So I started reading books and books and books. And I read, I don't know how many books. I got into all these different types of authors about creation and the end of the world and stuff like that. Then I got a hold of the Book of Mormon. Started reading it, and I think I got into towards the end of 2nd Nephi, and I quit reading. Little did I know I was getting into the best part, into Mosiah and Alma.
Yeah, you just got stuck with the Isaiah chapters, it sounds like. Yeah.
So I quit reading it, and went back to the books again. I read books and books and books. Had missionaries coming over giving me lessons. I was just barely turning 30 years old, and I had missionaries coming over. They taught me for 3 years. I would not commit to baptism.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why. Just wouldn't commit. And then one day, my mom, for some reason, she was born and raised Catholic all her life, and all of a sudden she wants to change religions and go to the Seventh-day Adventist Church. And she asked me if I wanted to go, and I said, no, I don't want to go to that place. And she said they're having this big, she called it a celebration, up at Salt Palace. You want to come? And I go, sure. I'll go to Salt Palace. And so there was this guy. It was a Seventh-day Adventist meeting. That's what it was. And there was this guy up there, and he's talking and pulls out the Bible and tells a story about whatever and puts it back down on this little table he had. And he gets talking, and he says, do you know why I know it's true? And he picks it up. Because it says so in the Bible. Then he puts it down. He goes into another story, and he goes, do you know why I know it's true? And he picks up the Bible and says, because it says so in the Bible. And he puts it back down. And this was going on for a long time. I was getting tired of it. So he says, do you know why I know it's true? And I could not help myself. I could not help it. I just blurted out. So everybody with an earshot of me could hear it. I said, don't tell me, it's in the Bible. And I get all these heads turning with dirty looks on their faces. My mom elbows me, and the guy must have heard me because he's looking at me now. Puts the Bible down, and he gets off and does other things again. And I'm like, what is this about? This doesn't make any sense, And so afterwards, after it was over, my mom said, so what do you think? I go, Mom, anybody could do what he did. I could do it. She says, do what? I go, tell some stories and ask you, do you know why I know it's true and I did this? And she elbowed me again. She says, quit it. And I said, okay, Mom, anybody can do it. We used to work at the same place. We were cabinet makers at that time. And we were coming home. It was a Wednesday, I remember that. We were coming home, and we were about 1.5 miles from home, and I finally said, Hon, what would you do if I wanted to get baptized? She almost broke her neck looking at me. Because she was looking out the side window.
Uh-huh.
And she flipped her head so fast, I thought she'd break her neck. Well, I got baptized. Somehow, she called the missionaries. And they called all the other missionaries that had taught me.
Oh.
Fixed it so I get baptized that coming Saturday up at the tabernacle.
Uh-huh.
So all these missionaries that had taught me were there.
Oh.
And it was a great tribute to me because we were so close. We had built up a friendship, and they were like family.
Yeah.
They would come over, and the first thing a lot of them would do is go right into the kitchen and sit at the table. What's to eat? We'd feed
They were
them.
family.
The others would come in, the others would come in and say, "What are you watching, brother? So what football game's on?" And they're not supposed to watch TV, right?
Right.
But they'd come into my house and we'd watch football games and stuff, and we would try to use what we saw as a a lesson for the gospel, and it was kind of cool. And it got all of us thinking about the gospel and what we could do, and use football as, like you said, an object. It was kind of cool. They were lots of fun.
Yeah.
So I got baptized. I was 33 years old when I got baptized.
That's so awesome.
Went to the Lamanite Ward. Was made a priest right off the bat, and stayed a priest for about 6 months and got my higher priesthood. When I got my higher priesthood, I got my first calling. And I thought, it was going to be something small and simple. Because it was my first calling.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Bishop put me in as first counselor of the elders' quorum.
That's not busy.
No. Holy smoke. It was bad, They were so messed up. My quorum leader, I don't know how he got to be the leader. He wasn't very good at doing what he was supposed to do. And so everybody was mixed up with what they were supposed to do. And one teaching was less than 30%,
Oh.
It was bad.
Yeah.
My second calling was elders quorum president.
Oh.
Yeah. So I turned it around in within about 18 months. Turned what was less than 30% to about 95%.
Wow.
In about 18 months.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Everybody followed me. They believed in me, and if I asked them to do something, they would do it. Nobody ever said no to me if I asked. And that was a good feeling, because they always told me, I'm doing this because if I don't, you're going to do it. I go, that's right. It's got to be done.
Yeah.
So it was either me or them.
Yeah. So we're running out of time. I have one final question for you. What does it mean to you to know that you belong to the tribe of Israel?
Means a lot. There are two things that I ask when I say my prayers every day. One and foremost is that I ask Heavenly Father, or tell Heavenly Father, that my only purpose here on this earth is to try and return back into your presence again. If it were not for the atonement of your Son, Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior, I would not have the chance to return back into thy presence. So I'm thankful to my Lord for being able to make it possible that I come back. And the second thing is, to bless my family, because I want to be with them. I want to be with my wife. I want to be with my children, my grandchildren. When I give blessings, and there's a group of us, more than 3 or 4, I always start out with, we the elders of Israel, unitedly lay our hands upon your head, and then proceed to blessing from there. But it means a lot to me to be a member of the tribe. I know that we're all, once you're baptized, we're all adopted.
Mm-hmm.
But being who I am, full blood Navajo, and knowing the things that I know, watching my people and going to their ceremonies and seeing that the priesthood was among us, I know that I am a member of the Israel tribe, one of the tribes of Israel.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time and letting me come to your home.
You're welcome. You're welcome to come back anytime you want.
Okay. Thank you. The day after I interviewed William, I went to visit my father's cousin. I went with my uncle, so his cousin as well. Her name is Dorothy, and she is 93 years old. So this is on my Caucasian paternal side of my family. And so she was 8 years younger than my grandmother. My grandmother was one of 11 children. She was the second youngest, and she had nieces and nephews older than her. And so, but this cousin of my father, as a 93-year-old, does not move that great, but her mind was quick, and she was just delightful to be in the room with. My uncle had so many questions for her, and it was fun to just sit there. I'm so grateful for that. I think it was just recently, and I can't remember if it was for sure on the podcast or if it was after the podcast, but I'm pretty sure it was Darren Perry who told me, he's like, when one of our elders dies, a library dies with them. And I was witnessing that by being in that same room with Dorothy and my uncle. And I'm so grateful for family history, and I'm just grateful for the opportunity that we get to be with family again someday. When we're all together again, it will be heaven. I'm so looking forward to that. I hope that you have had a wonderful week. I hope that you are having a wonderful summer. I hope that things are well with you. I think about you often, all of you, and I'm thankful for all of you who listen and are sharing this podcast. I hope you have a super wonderful, awesome day. Tribe of Testimonies is not affiliated with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. The music is a traditional hymn, Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing, arranged and performed by Kyle Forsyth. If you know someone who might be interested in being a guest, please reach out to me at tribeoftestimonies@gmail.com.